So we're going to talk about bonnets and frontlets, how they are constructed and put together on the head. Because when we read in the documents about bonnets and frontlets, they're really only referring to two parts of the headdress, which is this, which is the actual bonnet, and then frontlets, which is a long decorative strip like this. But in fact, it takes more pieces than that to actually construct the end look that we see in, for example, the drawings of Holbein. So I'm going to start with Melanie. She's taken a moment off from running the Tudor Tailor shop, and we're going to dress her hair ready to go underneath a bonnet and frontlet. So what I've got is a 3-yard length of ribbon that you would use for other types of hair lacing. Melanie's brushed her hair and put a central parting in. And you can see she's got reasonably long hair, which makes it quite easy, but also a bit of a fringe, which we're just going to have to tuck away. But it really doesn't matter with a bonnet and frontlet because actually everything gets hidden. So I'm just going to wrap this ribbon round to tie it into a bunch just behind the ear. I'm going to do the same on the other side because there's a sneaky modern hair elastic there. Okay, so the thing with the other types of hair lacing that we've shown you in videos before to go under things like French hoods or cap kerchers or later styles of coif, we usually recommend plaiting the hair and positioning it at the back of the head to make the right shape for the headdress. With a bonnet and frontlet, you actually want the hair to be in a completely different place, which is right at the front of the head, covering the hairline. So I'm just going to wrap the hair in this ribbon in a spiral. And I'm just going to do a half hitch knot at the end. And the same on the other side. Okay, so the hair is going to come right back off the base and the wrapped hair is going to come over the front like this. So if Melanie had longer hair, more Tudor length hair, they'd wrap right round and come back down again the other side. And in earlier versions of the bonnet and frontlet, this wrapped hair is what you see at the front of the headdress. But in the later styles, mainly depicted by Holbein, these wraps of hair are hidden underneath silk coverings. Okay. So that's the idea with the wrapped hair. As I say, if there was more hair and it was longer, you could actually make these visible bound sausages of hair, which would be underneath the bonnet itself. However, with the later styles, we have silk coverings, and the bonnet and frontlet kits that we sell in the Tudor Tailor shop at the moment currently come with an option of a red stripy silk or a tawny stripy silk. Do you have a preference, Melanie?
Red, please.
We'll do the red one. So it's just 2 pieces of the striped silk with some lightweight wadding inside, and that's going to cover the hairline and be tied at the back of the head, sort of turban-like. So if you just turn your head so that you can see the other way, so you see at the back, the tie is quite high up here. So it's sitting well above the ears, okay, and this is going to disappear inside. That should be sort of central, I think it is. Tuck the loose bits of hair. So the bit that doesn't often get mentioned when you just refer to a bonnet and frontlet, but is absolutely essential for the bonnet and frontlet to work, is a piece called the paste. So this is the paste, and it's a piece of buckram, paste buckram, so buckram with glue in it, or possibly cardboard, with wire around the edge, but then it's covered in a white linen. So it's a very simple, completely flat piece, which can be shaped in whichever way we want. So for the classic shape for the bonnet and frontlet, it's that gable shape. So what we're first going to do is just fold the paste exactly in half. So you can't see on the table, but that's exactly in half, and make quite a sharp crease at the top there. So that makes the top of the gable shape, which is going to sit up here. When you look at the portraiture and drawings, the angles and the point at which the next crease happens is quite varied. So it's open to interpretation. You can play with that and you can find the shape that best suits your face. However, with the version we're doing today, we're going to use another element of the bonnet and frontlet, which was referred to as the edge. So this is the edge, and you can see it's in that, again, classic gable shape. It's another piece of buckram covered with linen, and it has jewels sewn on it. With this level of jewels, gold ouches with gemstones and pearls, Melanie really has to be a member of the royal family, I'd say. So we're now elevating Melanie to at least princess, if not queen, by putting an edge on the paste. So when these pieces are referred to in the documents, they're all referred to individually, which suggests that they are indeed individual elements. But of course, when we look at them in the portraiture, they are miraculously all together. And nobody really knows exactly how this was achieved, whether it was temporarily done every single day with pins in the way that I'm doing now. If it was, I'd say that Queen Melanie's ladies would have done this in advance so that she's not sitting here waiting for it to happen. Or whether, as many people today choose to do, these were temporarily stitched in place. And she may have had different kinds of edges, some with fewer jewels or different jewels, or she may have sometimes worn the bonnet without an edge at all. So I'm sure whatever method was used, it was a semi-temporary method, which enabled things to be swapped out, changed around, which is something you see with all sorts of aspects of Tudor dress, particularly Tudor women's dress, this kind of flexibility and versatility. So when we get to the corner of the edge, we're going to have to do another fold in the paste for it to go around that corner. And I'm just using modern pins. Tudor pins aren't very different, but they would be handmade and made from brass. And we do have some of those brass handmade pins, but they're very expensive compared with modern pins, and they do bend a lot more easily than modern ones. So for the sake of convenience and budget, I'm just using modern pins.
How many pins are used?
I haven't been counting, but I've probably got 10, 12 so far. Pins in the royal Tudor household were actually ordered about every 6 months by the thousand. So even though they were relatively expensive and handmade, they used them in great quantities and obviously got through them and lost them if they had to keep ordering that many. Lost them or got them bent. Right, so there is a paste with an edge, a very royal edge. Again, I think the bonnet's going to go on the back of here, and it may well be that the ladies who were dressing Melanie might have done this in advance, but I'll just pop it on the head so you can see how it goes. So that instantly looks more hat-like. And I will attempt to pin the bonnet on your head, Melanie, but apologies if it feels awkward. So the bonnet is actually very soft. It's just made of velvet, lined in the inside with linen. No, I think that's easier off your head, actually.
Okay.
So I'm just going to overlap it onto the linen. Try and lose the ends, obviously. You don't want spiky ends on the outside of the headwear. And we're just pinning down to the point where the long veil part starts to come out of the bonnet. Same on the other side. Okay, so now the bonnet's pinned onto the paste with the edge pinned in place as well. So this can now go over the silk. Tuck all these, I've got lots of ties at the back from both doing Melanie's hair and tying on the hair covering, so I'm just going to tuck them away. Put another pin in there. Okay, so that is the basic bonnet part. Bonnet and frontlet. We need a frontlet. So again, with the kits that we're doing, we're offering a range. We've got a plain black velvet, which is very common, something you see in the documents, and then more fancy royal type frontlets. So we've got a black and gold kind of lattice work one, a red cloth of gold, and a plain cloth of gold. So Your Majesty, today, which would you prefer?
Today I feel like gold and black, please.
Gold and black, a classic. Excellent choice. When I went to the Holbein exhibition at the Royal Collection recently, I noticed much more than I had before, how there's underneath the main decorative frontlet, there is another layer which I'm calling the secondary frontlet, although in fact I'm going to put it on first, which appears to be just a simple length of starched linen, very stiffly starched, so this is almost like cardboard or paper. And then the ends have been curled up. So I did this earlier with a hair curling tong, so just dampened the linen with a spray bottle and then turned the end up so that you've got this curly end. So I'm going to put this on as well. It is included in our bonnet and frontlet pattern, but it's an optional layer, but I think it's a nice added bit of interest. So it just sits over the top. More pins, of course. So we'll put, it probably doesn't need too many. I think I'm just going to put one right at the bottom here. And again, if you go and look at those Holbein drawings are just something else. You can go to the Royal Collection online. You don't have to be able to get to the exhibition, which is about to close now anyway. And you can zoom right in on those amazing drawings and you'll see that these details like the pins are very clearly depicted by the artist, and it's quite clear that that's how these things all hold together. Okay, so that is the secondary frontlet, and then this one, again, we'll just fold it in half to find the midpoint and put it on the top. We'll put a pin in the top. Now this is where it is nice actually to have some handmade brass pins, because you really don't have to worry about them showing. It's actually quite a nice detail, but again, these are just the modern pins that I'm using. And I'm just gonna, so I'm gonna put another pin just above. Melanie, if you turn your head that way a bit, just above the pin that I did in the frontlet underneath. Again, this is quite varied. If you look at the visual sources, you'll see the point at which these frontlets are anchored down and turned back on themselves does vary. And then it turns back on itself at an angle like that. So you can do it in whatever angle you like the look of. Another pin in here. Okay, turn your head again. See, the good thing about the post buckram is all these pins now are nowhere near Melanie's head.
Good. This is good.
Another one here. I don't know how I've ended up asymmetrical there. It's obviously the art of the maid of honour knowing how to do this. I'm sure the Queen would be getting quite cross by now. There we go, that's better. There we go. So let's have a look at you. Because this is all wired in the paste, you can you can adjust the angle and the shape quite easily to suit. The last thing that you can play with is these two bits of veil. You do see them just hanging down either side of the shoulders like this, but you also see them flipped up in a fun kind of origami sort of way. And in fact, the portrait of Jane Seymour, let me see if I can remember how hers is. It's sort of like I've seen it described as a whelk shell. So it's folded back on itself so that this piece just sticks out like that. Sometimes both of them are flipped up, sometimes just one. Quite playful, I think. There we go. So that is how you make a bonnet and frontlet. Yeah.
Is that far enough round?
Yeah. So I'm sorry we didn't organise the rest of your clothes, Your Majesty.
It's very bad.
But, you know, it's good to start with the headwear and build on that. So now that it's all been carefully pinned together like that, I can show you how when we take it off, I took the one pin out that was in the back that I put in through the hair laces. It lifts off, and I think we could probably lose your turban. You can see how now it just is, you know, it looks like a headdress. It's been transformed into that three-dimensional thing. So whether they were kept like this on any kind of longer term and stored in some kind of hat box or something. Don't know. Or maybe they were completely disassembled each time to keep everything nice and smooth and crisp. Who knows?